We have been presenting incredible films since March 12th. Today is March 21st, and it's the day of spring. So yes, wonderful things. It's the beginning of a new season. We're closing our festival with this film, but you know, it's the best inspiration to continue forward. And as you know, the theme for our festival this year is Art as Resistance. Yes.
It's so wonderful to be with you all today. My name is Colette Ghunim, and I'm the director of Traces of Home. And I want to be real with you all that today I am hurting. And there's a lot of pain that our community is going through right now that I am really deeply feeling, and that I am just so grateful that we get to be in a space where we can actually hold these feelings and everything that we are experiencing in our community together. So I want to deeply thank you, Consuelo, and everyone that's part of this festival for creating these spaces, because this is the way that we're going to be able to heal and mobilize as a community. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for that standing ovation for Colette, right? Yes. Thank you. We are so, your film is so beautiful and so deep. And so many questions and so many feelings. And I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and then you'll have the opportunity to have questions for both of you. My first question is, how are your parents doing, and how are they reacting to this experience of first making the film, sharing their story as a family, and then sharing it with the world at film festivals? They were with you in New York, so how are they doing with the experience, and you, how are you doing with all of that?
Thank you. So we actually got to premiere the film in New York at DACA NYC, and my entire family came to the premiere, and it was phenomenal. That they got to walk the red carpet, they got to get their flowers, and they got a standing ovation. My dad stood up. It was super sweet to let them have that experience of wow, what they did was tremendous courage to go into their own trauma and put it on screen. And my dad did not want to go to Palestine. He was like, I don't even want to see what's happening there on the ground. And yet, I think after time, he began to understand the bigger reason of why it was so important for him to go back for his people, for our community. And so, and then seeing the impact of the film on people and talking to other Palestinians that can't go back. He had an ability to do that for so many people who are not allowed to return. So that was really powerful. And yeah, same thing for my mom, that, it's pretty amazing because I've witnessed her, because of this film, really the process of making the film completely changed her. That she has let down her walls, and I wasn't expecting it to happen. You can't really, she started a little bit at the end, but it's still, it was a process. But I was actually just back, I was back at home last week in Chicago. My mom just got knee replacement surgery. And so I was there caregiving for her for the first time ever, which was okay, let's see what this film did. Let's see what level of healing we're at together. And when she came back, of course, she's the strong woman that's what she always had to be. So she comes back and she's in pain, and you can tell she wants to cry, and she's just totally restricting herself from feeling. She's and I was Mom, you can just let go. It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. And then, with just that permission, she just boom. And I had never seen her be able to really, really let that go. And so I just held her hand, and it was such a beautiful moment of finally being able to actually let go of the walls and let me be her daughter and let her be my mom in this space of vulnerability. And I never thought I would ever have that ability to be like that with my mom. And it was only through the power of this film and the power of art for us to transcend the walls. Yes. So I'm so grateful.
Yes, thank you. It's a film about healing. very hard. It's not even easy to watch, but there is a process, and it's so amazing to see that film can do this, right? And so I would love for you to talk about that. Like, did you know that film can heal, and how your family healing has to do with the bigger picture of what's going on in the world right now?
Yeah, beautiful. So I did not expect this film. I did not know film could be a healing tool. I really was I started this film 9 years ago. This has been a 9-year journey of making the film. And I started in 2017 because of this family separations at the border and the refugee ban. And I felt so compelled to share my own parents' stories of escaping their homes in Mexico and Palestine. And so that's just what I thought it was going to be. It was a political film and a social justice film. And then I started going to therapy. If anyone's went to therapy, everything started to unravel. That I was like, oh wait, this isn't just about the disconnect to the cultures and me trying to figure out where is home from there. It was with my parents. And so it became this very deep healing journey of me not feeling home within myself and not understanding where is home if I can't feel it within myself. And I'm so grateful that this film became that tool and that medicine for me to figure out, to reach that rock bottom, to dig so deep into the shadows and the pain of the trauma, to realize, wait, home was always here inside of me, but I couldn't feel it because of all of, again, the walls. And it brings me to the next point, which is, why is healing important for the work that we're doing out in the world to end everything that's happening both in Palestine and Mexico for the Latinx community, that colonization, and I think all of us are realizing this, there's an awakening happening, that colonization has made us only live from the neck up. That we have become just machines that think, and we have lost our ability to feel. And if we have lost our ability to feel within our hearts, what violence is possible because of that? That if we are not able to learn how to feel our pain, how to deal with conflict within ourselves and with each other, this is when we start to turn to addiction. This is when we start to turn to abuse. And when we see it at a mass scale, to war, to genocide. And so literally the source of all of this and the root of everything that's happening in these cycles of trauma is us being able to heal within ourselves. That this is the root. If we do it within ourselves, with our families, and it ripples out to our communities as a whole. And so it's literally the most essential work we could be doing. Of course, yes, we should be protesting, of course, all the direct action work, but the mental health work is extremely important too.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, our relationship actually began as an editor. I kind of came on as a producer afterwards. But from the editing perspective, I mean, Colette and I met in 2017, and she had that inkling, was just early in that process, and she was interested in working with me because I was doing other films that were Palestinian related, and I could speak the languages, and we just kind of connected, and we knew that that was gonna hopefully someday happen, and we sort of waited until things aligned, but you kept filming. And I think the interesting thing for me that happened is when we started editing, I mean, she had so much. She had this entire journey to Mexico, which was itself its own film.
And you know, I can't help it but feel like you made that film for little Colette.
Yeah.
Right?
It's for all of us.
For all of us. Yes, did you see the photos at the end? The whole crew as children. I mean, we look older, but we continue to be those children.
Yes,
and
we
we
do.
need to take care of those children, and it's what you're saying about mental health. If we don't take care of ourselves and the relationships with our loved ones, you know, that's where we start. That's where the work starts. So thank you so much for sharing your family so deeply, and the vulnerability and the beauty of, you know, staying together through it all. So thank you for that.
Gosh, where do I start? What I was really struck with is how all of this footage was being shot. Like, like you're seeing there's like a lot of behind the camera time with the family that creating this, like, and as someone who edited it, I mean, you just have all of this stuff, but it's like so personal. And then this, way that was kind of a wall, like you're saying, because I've gotten, I have my faith is Buddhism, and in that faith, you have to go through it.
Hi, what a beautiful film, really deep, moving, all of it. So thank you, your journeys. Have you thought about doing therapy with your parents? Just wondering.
I don't know if I'm ready for that. There's still walls. I'm like, there's still a lot to work through for sure. I would be open to it. My dad, I don't think he would do it. I don't think he would do it. He's a very typical Arab dad. Like, he's just like, what is this nonsense? Like, therapy. And so I'm not sure if he would actually go through it. I think my mom would be open to it, yes. So maybe.
To say this movie was perfect. It was everything.
Wow.
And it was just like basically my story on screen too.
Jeez.
And I feel like, I'm from Bangladesh, born a Sunni Muslim, and I was adopted from an orphanage, so displaced from homeland, all of that. I've just recently apparently become like fluent in Spanish. I understood all the Spanish. I don't know what happened. So it's
Past lives.
yeah, right? And I felt like you were like my sister on screen. I was like, what are you? For a second I'm like, I'm adopted, so I'm like, wait, because my family's from Detroit.
You never know.
Right? And my family's from Detroit. I just wanted to say, and I came to me in Spanish, so I wanted to say it in Spanish too. So, fue maravilloso, fue hermosísima, la película fue perfecto. Todo de la vida.
Muchísimas gracias. And thank you for sharing your own stories too. Thank you.
Thank you for this profoundly beautiful film.
Thank you.
And thank you for all that. It's apparent that you went through a lot yourself in putting it together. One of the things that struck me was the way you used animation. Like, it seemed to be certain moods where you would use animation. And I just wanted to ask, how did you erupt? Because you have so much footage, that's live footage and archival footage. And then you chose to use animation for certain things. And I wondered if you could talk about your creative process with that. And thank you.
Yes, for sure. I can start and then I'll pass it to Sarah to go deeper too. But my initial motivation was that I didn't want to use the typical stock footage of Palestine in the 40s or Mexico in the 50s. That it just felt like it was going to be too generalized, that I wanted to actually let my parents see their own stories on screen that we don't have any documentation of. And I was like, the only way to do that is going to be by animating what their interviews were about their own stories. And so I knew from the very beginning that I wanted to use animation for those components, and that I wanted it to be very colorful for Mexico and very detailed, because my mom's memory, she had so much more memory of that because she was 8, versus my dad, who had more of like a murky, faded imagery at age 4. And so I wanted the animation to match that. And then also that that I wanted to have those like natural elements of like the land of Palestine and those greens and browns of like the natural colors too. So that was something that felt very important. I don't know if you have anything to add. Okay, sorry. That's okay. Okay.
First of all, was there any more interaction with the man who lived in the second home in Palestine, and after he drove away in his car, it struck me how arrogant he seemed, and of course I only had a brief moment of exposure to him, but it reminded me a lot of many Americans, how Americans can be quite arrogant and dismissive, like there was a war, we won, sorry. Just wondering if there was any more further interaction with that person or anyone in that house. And also how if you and your father discussed that later, or if you talk more about it as a family later. And then I was wondering if your parents have been to any of the film screenings of the movie. And lastly, I was hoping you could tell us how to buy the film, because there's so many friends and family and neighbors and people in my community I want to share this with. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, so for the man at the end of the film, what a trip, that was wild. Yeah, that was the only interaction that we had. After that, he left, we left, and that was that. I think all of us were like complete after that interaction, that we did not want to continue to engage. And I talked with my dad afterwards, and we all didn't understand what he said because they were speaking, oh, actually, sorry, I didn't understand what he said about the we won, sorry, we won and lost, because I didn't understand the Arabic and I didn't understand the Hebrew, so I didn't know what happened exactly. But my dad definitely got it, and he was definitely very upset. So, rightfully so. So that was, I think, the extent of the conversation that my dad and I had afterwards. That was just like, wow. And he did say like, oh, it would have been nice to be able to go inside of the house. Like, if it would, maybe I would have actually taken them up on the offer to like actually go in, if they actually didn't offer that. He would like to ask if we could go inside. But yeah, that didn't happen. And thank you so much for wanting it to share it with your community. Right now it's on the festival circuit, so it's not available for purchase yet, but we are distributed by Watermelon Pictures, and it's going to be on their platform probably later this year into early next year. Yep.
Yeah. Let me do the producer thing.
Yes, go for it.
So we have a website, tracesofhome.com, and you can get on our mailing list. We're hoping to do a theatrical release, and we don't know exactly how many cities we'll get to go to, but it'll depend a little bit on how our festival run continues.
Love the film. The parts of the butterflies just kind of brought everything home so beautifully. I wanted to ask you what maybe some similarities and differences were between how you felt in Palestine and in Mexico.
Yes. So when we were in Palestine, I thought I had an understanding of what was happening on the ground, like based off of my own activism and organizing work before I went. But I had no idea the level of injustice that I saw, like seeing the separate roads, seeing the water literally rerouted to the settlements with like totally removed from those living in the West Bank, that I was absolutely shocked. Separate buses, like it was literally an apartheid system. It was very clear. And I never had read about those specific things that I had seen on the ground when I was actually there. And of course, now we all know it's so extreme. We went in 2019, and so the difference, of course, was massive about being in Palestine in an occupied land. That the level of grief of not having the access to roots of the land was very, very, very hard to witness. And we went on a political tour for 3 weeks. That just like opened my eyes a lot on the ground to the level of discrimination and in the occupation. And so that was its own thing because of everything happening there. For Mexico, it felt much more of like for Mexico, I actually felt more of like an ancestral return. Like I really felt like my grandmother was there with us during the search of the houses, like how everything just worked out so perfectly that it was just like, okay, I just felt like a very strong guiding force when we were in Mexico, and like the sacredness of the land. And I think something that and even with all of that I still didn't feel like I was home in either place. And that was something that I was searching for, but I did not feel it in either place. And so I was like, okay, if it's not in Mexico, Palestine, or the US, like where do I belong? And that's what made me go into the dark night of the soul. To be like, yes, where do I belong? Yeah, as a mixed kid in the US. Mm-hmm.
My uncle went to Israel after World War II and fought in the 48 war and in the 56 war, after which he was tired of war and he immigrated to the United States. What's hard to fathom is the degree of suffering and persecution the Jewish settlers from Europe experienced during World War II. That level of loss doesn't make you kind-hearted. It makes you determined to survive, right? And that's what got visited upon Palestinians from the European Jewish settlers, right? They're up against the European people who have access to more advanced technology and who also have been made terribly fierce by terrible losses. I don't want to excuse what they did. one bit, but I do think one has to fathom it. You have to see this in a global perspective. That war leads to war, leads to war, leads to cruelty and devastation.
Yeah.
And we have to get past that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that comment. Yeah, and that's like the bigger picture, which can be very hard because it's like, how can we actually zoom out of what we're seeing of the oppressor versus the victim versus the oppressor versus the victim again and again? It's just a cycle that keeps going over and over until the cycle breaks with actually being able to heal the trauma. Like everything that we're seeing right now is because there's a bunch of wounded inner children that never got the love and care that they received, so they're taking it out on a mass scale on others because of the level of trauma and abuse that they did not deserve to have either. And so thank you for bringing that point up. It's a controversial one sometimes, but it's the truth. Like, how do we get to that root to stop the violence? It's only by healing and facing it. So thank you. Thank you.
I'm curious. I know you said that the movie, your attention kind of shifted as you were filming or, editing it together, and I'm curious, can you speak to that point?
Yeah.
Of shifting?
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, I was very much focused on the political aspect of trying to figure out, these stories of escape and trying to figure out where is home as a child of immigrants and refugees. And that was going to be the film. Started going to racial identity therapy. And in there, the relationship with my mom just kept coming up over and over and over again. And how much anger I had inside of myself and resentment towards her that I felt totally blocked, and I didn't know what that anger was. And I didn't understand that anger was because of something much larger than just about her. That there was a whole social conditioning that had happened in her own trauma with her experience with domestic violence that made her the way she was. And so then I thought, okay, maybe the film is going to be about me healing the relationship with my parents. And we're just going to become best friends. And we're all going to be like one happy family, and it's going to be great. And then I realized, wait, oh gosh, I can't change my parents. I can only do so much with healing within myself, and then I cannot be able to change that within my own parents. And so that's when I had to learn about boundaries and things that, sometimes there are harmful behaviors that they're not ready to change, and so I said no more. I will not accept that from you as I did my own inner healing. And so going from, okay, home is not in Mexico or Palestine, home is not with my parents, where is home? I was previously married during that time, and so I thought, okay, maybe home is now creating my own home with my then husband. And then I went through my dark night of the soul, through a divorce that I was totally not expecting, and that brought me down to the deepest grief I had ever felt. And it made me have to realize I have been trying to find home externally the entire time. And I had to reach that level of surrender and rock bottom and truly go to have a spiritual awakening around realizing that home is nothing in this material world. That everything here will never bring me the fulfillment that I'm seeking if I cannot find it within myself. And so it was this full circle journey of me coming back home to self and with the divine, if we believe. And so that was my journey, and that's what this Traces of Home is all about, is us having to go on that full circle journey to come back home within. That is the hero's journey. That is the narrative journey that we all must go on. It's real. It's a real thing. So that was my story.
To start, just to say, that cyclical storytelling is so deeply apparent, and it's so satisfying to see, even if it feels like, your chest is breaking open just watching this film. And I was just wondering if you would share some victories that were unexpected in this process, not necessarily having to be with your family, but wonderful if they are, but also just the experiences that this has opened up within this world for you. Wow. And within yourself, if you're willing to share.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kartika. So, this film has changed me from the inside out. I am not the person that is on that screen. I can easily see I have a completely shifted identity after going through this process. that is a huge victory. That now I'm able to feel my feelings. I can deal with difficult emotions. I can look at people and see people versus having to stay hidden and hide and shrink and stay small. That it's like, wait, I was just conditioned to turn into this shell version of myself that was beyond my parents. It was from this entire world that made us feel this way as women of color, people, humans, literally, that we have received that. And so I feel like I really have gone through an inner liberation of like being able to be my full self. And of course I'm still learning. I'm 34 and I know there's much more to go. Well, hopefully, we'll see. Maybe not. maybe this is the end, but we never know. But I feel very, very grateful to have been able to go through that. And of course, I can speak with you about like the spiritual component too, that I think a lot of times, as I mentioned, that we're just living up here, that we have lost our nature, our eternal self, which if we believe in the soul, like there's a deep knowing of a light that's inside of us and a deep love that's inside of us that has always been there, and yet we have been blocked from knowing that it's there all the time. And so I am so grateful to have been able to connect with that and to see it within others now, that it's always been there. It's so beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.
Palestinian and Mexican.
No, stop.
No.
Whoa!
So I knew I had to come see this.
My cousin.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
your story so intimately. I've never been exposed to a story that kind of mirrored mine in a way, and don't feel so alone in our experience. And my grandpa was a professional photographer. So
Okay, this is
weird. Yeah, so we have albums and albums and albums of photos, but I never really knew him, and he was my Palestinian grandpa. And I also had the dream of taking my mom back to Palestine, or actually, well, she's never really been there, so my grandpa was the one who came to the United States, so to bring her there for the first time, and it's complicated, it's really complicated. People don't want to go back because there's so much pain, and I think we're the generation that wants to bridge that gap. And now, since then it's become a little bit more complicated without going. But I feel like I want to watch your film with my mom and take the journey with her, through your mom. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Mexican American, Chicano. Your story isn't, I think, resonate only with one person, as you heard many people. I think my family has kind of gone through, real similar types of things. And as you've seen, a lot of the people kind of resonate with what you talked about. Where do you see the future of, for all lack of intention of a term, is the Mexican family? Because you started off the night and the evening with, really talking about trauma that's in the atmosphere of within our community, and not to bring that up, but it is really kind of looking at women as being in two different lights. But where do you see the future of changing that trauma within women or for women, specifically with the domestic issue and the domestic violence? And I think, again, my grandmother has had 12 children. I had, besides my mom, 5 aunts, right? And so all the stories are so similar. And so I'm working with my family, the remaining women, to work through all of that trauma, because it does affect them. So you're the generation behind us. So where do you see that next generation of women?
Yeah. I actually think we need help for men. Really, really, that the machismo culture has destroyed so many women. It's very, very, very hard. And it's up to men to teach men how to be men, how to be healthy, masculine men. The machismo culture has, again, created walls that they cannot feel. So of course they're going to be able to do that. No, you can't cry. No, you can't act out. All of these things that the parenting for these little boys has just ruined and made the exact same cycle violence and trauma again and again. So I think there's a lot of intervention that's needed from healthy men that have gone through their own healing to teach boys how to treat others, how to deal with their emotions, how to deal with conflict within themselves. There's a huge upheaval that is needed in parenting and in schools for young boys. It's like for the next generation. I feel like that is essential. That, of course, we have to do our healing work as women, and that's it's our thing, but that it's going to end by men, again, becoming healthy masculine men. We need it so badly. We want men's leadership. It's like, okay, yes, please, be in your healthy masculine, and yet, yeah, it's very hard to witness. So I think that's the solution. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, please keep us posted. You know, many people have been asking us about the films, where to see it next. So we'll be following you and sharing.
Is there one last thing I can just say?
Yes.
For those who are actually wanting to go deeper into their own healing work as well, so I'm currently getting my somatic coaching certificate, which is all around that. Somatic healing, trauma healing, and yes, and I'm building a community for those who are also wanting to go deeper into their own trauma healing work. So if you're interested, I would say to follow Traces of Home, and you'll find my account. It's called Coco Sanctuary, which is a community where we have all this kinds of somatic workshops, healing workshops online and in person. Okay, so yes, that's the next chapter after this film. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.